Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Connections for Change from here in London. I'm joined this morning by the wonderful Amanda O'Brien, who is a graduate of Monash University and a member of our alumni community here in the UK. Amanda is a digital marketing consultant and a travel blogger, so it's quite an interesting time for her at the moment. We've received a number of questions from our alumni community, particularly around travel, and I'm really delighted that Amanda is here to talk to us this morning. How are you, Amanda, and how are you coping given that you're a travel blogger who can't travel at the moment?
Morning, Jess. Yes, it's an interesting scenario, one I get a lot of questions about. I guess that what I often tell people is the key to being successful as a travel blogger is you actually need to spend a lot of time on your laptop, doing things like SEO, writing content, setting up videos, editing things. So yes, the traffic on my travel blog is down about 80% at the moment, which hurts because you make money as a travel blogger through advertising on your site, which needs traffic, and affiliate sales when people click through. But luckily, I also work as a marketing consultant, and I've just started a new blog during this time. But I'm confident that the traffic will come back when we can travel again on the blog.
Beautiful. Well, hopefully we do start to see a little bit of that regeneration there. And it's great to hear that you've got another creative outlet too. I suppose that's the bandwidth that we've got at the moment, that we can consider these sorts of opportunities as well to explore other realms and other possibilities, I guess, off the back of a really devastating crisis. I'll switch to the questions now. Overnight, the travel industry has changed dramatically. Tourism's ground to a halt. We've now got planes sitting on tarmacs. We've got them in the desert in Australia. Hotels are empty with no guests. Many across the industry innovated in the first instance to start their businesses. So how do you think they're going to innovate and rebuild following this global pandemic?
Well, it's interesting because as obviously I'm a travel blogger and experienced traveller, but I'm also a marketer, and I've always worked in marketing since my wonderful education at Monash. So I kind of come to this with two hats. And as always, any innovation and rebuilding that's going to be successful needs to be based upon consumer insight. And at the moment, I can't imagine the need and the desire to travel is going to change in the long term, as it's quite a fundamental consumer desire and we've become used to it. However, what will change, particularly in the short term, will be some of the criteria people are considering when they're making decisions about where they're going to travel, where they're going to stay, and how they're going to get there. If I use hotels as an example, I imagine the new 5-star is probably going to be around cleanliness and disinfectants. Most of us are familiar with going into a hotel room, and sometimes you'll see that banner across the toilet saying it's been recently cleaned. I think we need to imagine that across the entire room and everything to do with it, possibly in a more innovative format, because I think that reassurance from people around how recently that room was cleaned, how it was cleaned, and even, to be honest, potentially assurances around who did it are going to be absolutely critical. That will add cost to businesses, but it will be about being clever with how that's communicated. I think for airlines and for airports, we're going to be seeing much longer lead times on arriving at the airport and longer to get out of the airport in the short to medium term. But the key thing that's going to get travel going again is going to be apps, and it's going to be people agreeing to be tracked and traced. I foresee that there will be qualifications on when you come into a country. I mean, interestingly, a lot of people forget you still can't go to Tanzania these days without a yellow fever certificate. I clearly remember going in and out of Hong Kong during SARS and having to have my temperature taken. So this is not unknown of what's happened before with travel. I think it's just we haven't necessarily known it in Western countries of having to agree to certain terms and conditions to come into a country and to exit, and in some cases possibly even return to our own.
Yeah, fabulous. Global travel has been obviously significantly affected, more so than domestic. We're seeing a bit of a resurgence of domestic travel at the moment. We've seen many big names go into voluntary administration, and it's really crippling the travel sector. Do you think the coronavirus has hastened the death of some of our travel greats that we've seen over the years?
I do think it has, but I guess where this is probably affecting people the most is the greats that haven't kept up. I don't think coronavirus on its own will have caused any business to go under that wasn't already probably going down that path. And I think we've all seen it with those great companies that have not kept up with the digital world. They haven't kept up with consumer demand and desire. They've often become a little bit lazy, or they haven't repivoted their offer in light of a digital desired consumer. We've seen it with department stores. I think we're seeing it with airlines that don't really have a significant point of difference. We'll see it with big hotel chains that, again, don't have a compelling point of difference that will help them stand out or haven't adjusted to a digital world. And the same with tour companies as well. I think those who, as always, have kept on track with consumer trends, have innovated, have invested for innovation, will end up being fine. It's those that haven't kept up that will probably struggle the most.
Definitely. Speaking of trends, what sort of trends can you see emerging in the aftermath of the corona crisis from a travel industry perspective? And I guess what sort of opportunities do you see arising from this, and how things will change over the next 6 to 18 months based on your interactions with other travel providers, and your experience there, but also, I guess, with your marketing hat on. Could you share some of your reflections there?
Yes, I've got a few of these. I love doing a bit of trend analysis and thinking about where things might go and what might happen. I think after lockdown, we're going to see a big growth in adventure travel. I think if people have been tied down, they haven't been able to get out and about, they've been bored. For some people, they could be questioning their purpose. I think what people are going to be looking for is, I want to do something different. I want to get out and about. And adventure travel is great because it generally involves being outside. It generally involves more space. And I think it will be about, after quite a lot of time of boredom and frustration, actually getting some purpose to climb a mountain, to complete a trek, to do something different. I also think we'll see a lot more friends, groups of friends traveling together. I think a lot of friends won't have seen each other. I think we'll see girls' trips, boys' trips. Most people are locked down with their partner. They might want a little break. I also think we'll possibly see a bit of an explosion in solo travel as a result of that as well, from people who have been with people non-stop, looking to get a bit of a break and some time on their own. I think what's going to be interesting in airlines is pricing. I think initially airlines are going to have to go cheap to get those people back onto seats. But I also believe once that's resumed, they're going to have to price up to start recovering from what's been going on. And obviously not every airline is going to make it through this. So we should see capacity drop, which will mean they do have the option to increase prices. And finally, one of the areas I think is going to be most interesting, and an area I'm quite passionate about, is spas. Spas have become very popular in recent years. I see your face, Jess.
Yep.
You're obviously like me, very interested in spas. However, when you think about treatments and massages and facials, they're very interactive. You also think about saunas where everybody's perspiring together. But then you have water functions. I don't know how much we know yet about how water affects the virus. But I also would imagine there's going to be a desire after this for a kind of potentially eat, pray, love type, I want to go out and have an experience type holidays. So that is going to be really interesting because the spa industry has generally been very innovative. It's going to be very interesting to see how they pivot their offer in this time, when particularly the transition time, when we're still slowly moving in and out of lockdowns and restrictions, because it's kind of against a spa experience to see a bunch of people in PPE, right? So that's probably not very relaxing. So that's the one I think that could be a really interesting one to watch.
Okay, well, let's finish on something a little bit more optimistic, I guess. You and I are optimists. Can you share your top travel tip then for 2021? And is there an industry secret that you can let us in on that we probably haven't been across before, or where will be the next hotspot? I am an avid traveller myself, as are a number of our alumni across the world. So any hot tips that you can give us, particularly as we start to see this industry regenerate, would be very welcome.
Well, I'll start with a hot tip and then I'll end with my views on exciting places to travel and where I think there'll be growth, because that's a fun one to end with. I think now and in the next 6 to 8 months is going to be the time to negotiate hard on hotels. So let me tell you, as a travel blogger, when I have to spend my own money, which obviously I try to avoid, what I do, I'm a big fan of booking.com. because they have a terrific cancellation policy. So you can book ahead and you won't incur any fees usually till quite close to the date. But the key is check out a few of the engines. If you're worried about dates, make a booking with booking.com because you can cancel it, and then email the hotel. Ask them for a price and then come back and say, these are all the prices I can gain on the search engines. What can you offer me? And see what they come back with. It is amazing how easy it is to negotiate. And this is probably going to be even easier in the next 6 to 12 months, but you need to do it in an email. Or if they won't move on the price, ask for more benefits, ask for an upgrade, ask for a free meal, ask for this, ask for that. So I think people know that, but I think a lot of people think you can't really barter or bargain with a hotel fare. With companies, you absolutely can. So that's my insider tip on hotels. So moving on to what will be the hot destinations over the next few years, I think what we'll see particularly in the next 12 to 18 months is a boom in those countries that have got the magic mix of having handled the virus well and having a lot of space. So I expect New Zealand and Australia to do extremely well out of this once the borders are open for international travel. Very much, I think they're held up widely across the world as outstanding examples of how they've handled dealing with the virus. And they are synonymous, of course, with lots of open spaces and good weather so that people will be able to get out about and travel. Interestingly, I think we might also see parts of Africa and Asia benefit from the same thing. We still don't know how much of their results around the virus have been contributed to by perhaps having a slightly younger population, how many tests, etc. But countries like Taiwan, Vietnam, Korea, that have been very much called out for doing well on this virus and doing well early, I think could absolutely feel a lot safer for people who are looking for something exotic, but want to go somewhere that they know if something happens again, it's going to be well handled. And then Africa, of course, has the benefit of having not had at this point as many cases, lots of open spaces, and lots of adventure travel. So climbing Kilimanjaro or going out to Namibia and getting on the Sossusvlei Dunes, etc. So I think we'll see big growth in that type of tourism, as well as I said, that combination of space and trust in those governments. I don't think everything is lost for Europe or the US. I think with Italy, people are going to give it a lot of, everybody I think loves Italy, and poor old Italy was hit so early and so quickly. There's a passion for Italy that I think people will want to help it rebound, and everybody's still going to want to come to Paris. So I think some things do hold true in doing it, but it may be a little bit slower, and it might hopefully give an opportunity to some countries that haven't experienced tourism to the extent that they should have, like a Taiwan or in Namibia. It might give a real boost to them and to their economies, which I think would be great to see.
Well, that is very good news, particularly for Australia and New Zealand, but also for those of us thinking about those adventure travels after we do come out of lockdown. I think we're all having a little bit of a dream there about that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amanda, and answering some of our questions from our alumni community as part of Connections for Change. It's been a delight to chat with you, and I do hope to be checking out your blog, The Boutique Adventure, very soon. I avidly follow on Instagram and absolutely adore the photography that you put together there. Encourage anybody out there that's looking to follow another chapter for travel and so forth to please look up the Boutique Adventure, which we'll put the link through to here. Thank you again, Amanda, and stay safe.
Thanks, Jess.